How you doing? This is Andre from Mascasoni Ripple Effects. We're at the Membertou Heritage Center, and
Hi,
we're
everyone.
here with lead awareness for hunting and fishing with the, what's the name of the group again?
It's the Port Morien Wildlife Association. They're here they've worked 4 years to get the blessing of an eagle, very rare gift. So they've brought together the chiefs and the Mi'kmaq people to get this, and they're going to be presenting them with an eagle today, a carcass that they can use for the purpose of teaching, visual. They can carry around in classrooms. So this is a really big event in Nova Scotia, if not Canada actually. It's a very rare thing that's about to happen.
When you hunt with lead, it goes into the environment. Any animal that's been shot with lead, any predator that eats that animal ends up dying from lead poisoning. And lead shot, especially duck hunting or any waterfowl sports, the lead that's dispersed in the water, it goes into the groundwater and it pollutes. So the fish, the animals, even us, we end up getting sick from it. So we're trying to get people to be aware not to use lead while they're hunting or fishing, even fishing lures that get stuck in the water. Sometimes you get a snag and your lure stays in the water. Well, that lead stays in the water and it goes into the groundwater. The fish eat it, the animals eat it that eat the fish, and it goes down the food chain to us. So we're trying to create awareness for hunters like me and fishermen like my son to stop using lead, use steel shot or brass or copper. It's a lot better for the environment.
It is. So we're very honored to be here. There is a very select few media reps allowed to enter the ceremony, but it is open to the public. It's at the Heritage Park?
Yeah, at the Heritage Park in Membertou.
Yeah. So
and
come
it's
on
just
down.
about to start.
Yep. So we're going to stay live stream, and we are going to turn the camera around and let you in on this very special event.
The honor song is just about to start.
How's it going, Bob? What's going on? I want to welcome everybody here to the Membertou Heritage Park. My name is Jeff Ward. I'm the general manager, and it's an honor to have you guys out here today. It's an honor to have our elders here, as well as your elders too, as well, and many leaders and different people, organizations come together. It's a beautiful thing. That's what happened here today. It's a beautiful thing of partnership. So as we begin, I want to begin, and I want to do a welcome song. And I want to welcome you guys in a good way. This is an old traditional welcome song. It starts off slow. So that first round, think of your elders. Think of your Rigidulu, your grandfathers, your Lidada. Think of your elders. Even if they've passed on, think of them. Then as it gets a little faster, the next verse, well, that's our young leaders. You know, we're dancing it too, but arthritis is setting in, slowing us down. And then it gets a little faster again. Well, that's the young adults. And they got all kinds of energy. And then the last verse is our little kids, our grandkids. And they're coming in. So let's send them love. Let's send them energy as you hear this song. And when you hear this song, think of all the different people in your life. From your Amish, from your ancestors, to your grandparents, to your sugis, your uncles, your aunts, to your loved ones, to your oldies, your mates, and your children and the grandchildren. So think about all of them as I sing this song. If you want, just relax. Close your eyes. Don't worry, we've got armed guards right here. Yahoo means sounds good. Kind of like saying hallelujah or yeehaw. Yeehaw, right? I studied your people. Covered wagons, square dancing. By the way, square dancing is illegal here in the Membertou Heritage Park, so $500 fine. It's an honor to have you guys here. We welcome you to the Membertou Heritage Park. Amazing history, a lot of history. There's a lot of things you can do here. From workshops, interactive workshops, to videos, to a theater, to walking around. There's a lot of things that we do. We're doing 9 for 2019, 9 different workshops. And next year we're going to do 20 for 2020 we'll be doing 20 different experiences. So we're growing each year. So hopefully the next time you're here we'll be announcing our big mansion. We're thinking about it. But we got another couple more announcements. We got some of our leaders here. So it's an honor to have you here. And also just a quick reminder, you guys get 10% off everything in the gift shop while you're here. 10% off and 15 for snow on the roof discount. You know what I mean? All right, it's a true honor to have you here, and my job is done to welcome you here. And I'm going to introduce our MC, my identical cousin. Deal.
Thank you, Jeff.
I can't sit down anywhere.
Well, good morning, everyone. Morning. As you know, I'm not going to read it all. Just bore you guys to death, I think. But me, Del Wasi, Jeff McNeil, Quay May Del Well Otio. I apologize if my Mi'kmaq is a little rusty, but I've tried, and I think I'd like to thank Brayden and the other members of the Mi'kmaq community for helping me with trying to learn and move along with that. So, as many of you guys know, I'm Jeff McNeil with the Port Morien Wildlife Association. We have members here as well from our organization: Stan Peach, John Kennedy, Brian McNeil, Darren McLeod. We'd like to thank everyone for coming to the Eagle Blessing here in Unama'ki on the Mi'kmaq First Nations soil, which is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. We'd like to recognize the community elders that are partaking here today, government departments, officials, enforcement people, media relations, general public, and interested parties. Many people wonder why our organization and the Mi'kmaq community are blessing the majestic bird we are today. The idea came from the creation of a visual aid, in this case, having the eagle, or the kitpu, I believe. Kitpu? Kitpu, which is Mi'kmaq for eagle. To educate people on the dangers of lead, whether it be fishing tackle, ammunition, what have you, in regards to that. And us as harvesters, hunters, anglers, it's our part to do what we can to educate our own on the dangers, not only to humans, but to the wildlife as well. This idea wasn't solely our own. This idea was created through a very special lady who is one of the co-founders of the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Her name is Dr. Helene Van Danek. She was instrumental in educating us harvesters, both non-Mi'kmaq and Mi'kmaq alike, on the dangers associated with that. After seeing her presentation, we decided that a lot more needed to be done in regards to the issue. So with that, we worked collaboratively with Helene, her husband Murdo, and we've worked to carry on the message. So we brought it the eagles dealing with the effects of lead poisoning that were being rehabbed at the Cobequid Rehabilitation Center convinced our members that we as PMWA had to get more involved and get the word out on the dangers. And the fact that there is alternatives to using non-lead ammunition and tackle. They once we brought the idea of trying to acquire taxidermy bald eagle to our membership, it was approved, and we were told repeatedly there's challenges along the way that we would never have this or have this come to fruition. As you see today, a lot more has come to fruition than just what started with an idea and brainstorming. Helene's passion for rehabilitating birds of prey, especially eagles that were poisoned by lead fragments and the loss of lead tackle left behind by hunters and fishers, was relentless. She had finished up a 5-year ammunition exchange project that she worked with the Halifax Wildlife Association on. When we had met her, we had brought them down for a lead ammunition exchange. We've learned so much since then. This project involved her traveling the province as well as us now, since we have taken over, and educating our harvesters and anglers on the alternatives to lead. PMWA came up with the idea of acquiring the deceased bald eagle from, then at the time it was Department of Natural Resources, which is now Department of Lands and Forestry. We went through, we presented our case about using this as a visual effect to get the word out that there is alternatives. The eagle was not something easy to acquire, and we were told, again, repeatedly, that it probably wouldn't come to fruition. Being a group that has no trouble accepting the word no, we drafted a plan and solicited the support of the Department of Lands and Forestry, as well as the local branch office in Coxie, the Assembly of Mi'kmaq Chiefs, Chief Radgugu, who were both instrumental in helping us acquire our education permits. Without funding from the Nova Scotia Habitat Conservation Fund, this project wouldn't have been possible either. That fund is solely funded by hunters and trappers within the province of Nova Scotia. We endured a few bumps on this journey, but we finally, as of today, have the bald eagle back from taxidermy. The taxidermist, Steve McDonald, who did the taxidermy for the project, was instrumental in this, although there was roadblocks and some hurdles along the way. One question we are asked leading up to the ceremony today is why an eagle blessing by the Mi'kmaq? Well, the answer is easy. In the Mi'kmaq language, the eagle is a symbol, a sacred symbol, and that object, the bird and its feathers of the First Nations people are sacred symbols, and the objects that are universally recognized throughout Turtle Island, or as some people call it today, North America, by most native tribes and widely used in various ceremonies. We wanted to incorporate the importance as well as do this in such a way that it shows communities the level of respect we have for the Mi'kmaq Nation. The blessing of this bird that will be used in our educational programs, that is also part of Dr. Van Donnick's legacy, is a tribute to her as well. I will throw this out there. She was gifted the Eagle Whisperer name, and I'll let Chief Rod elaborate on that when he speaks. A name bestowed on Helene by Chief Rod himself. First name and other First Nations people are aware that she was gifted that name. We believe this project to be a first of its kind in the Maritimes, and maybe a first in Canada. We also believe that this project may be a first in all of Canada, where we have this being blessed and taking place on First Nations soil. We want to give this program the utmost respect we have and can moving forward, to show other First Nations, not only in Nova Scotia, but across Canada, what we can accomplish by working together. So with that, I'm going to put this on hold, because I don't have one thing for closing at the end. and I will extend an invite to the Harry Power from Department of Lands and Forestry to say a few words if you could. You're fine with that? Perfect. Step up and we'll. And for those that don't know, Terry Power is the regional biologist with Lands and Forestry.
Thank you, Jeff. I've been a regional biologist in Cape Breton for a couple of decades, and most recently I've taken on the job as manager. I'm very pleased to be here. I don't get to do things like this. I've never done something like this before. Very pleased to be here. Chief Rod, elders, community elders, guests, members of Port Morien Wildlife, thank you very much. This is an honor. The Minister of Lands and Forestry, the Honorable Ian Rankin, has expressed his apology for not being able to attend, and he has asked me to speak to you today. I'm very pleased to be here because we have worked with the Mi'kmaq community for as long as I can remember, decades, maybe 2, maybe 3 decades, in providing eagles to the Mi'kmaq community for religious and ceremonial purposes. So these eagles meet their demise from power lines falling to the ground, maybe striking cars, things like that, or natural calamities. But most recently, we started to see eagles perishing from lead poisoning. We were all very concerned. And Helene was actually a shining light to come forward and say she needed to investigate this further and to bring the science in to understand why the eagles were dying and to figure out how we could make this better. So we've had this long and cooperative relationship. We've worked with Helene, and we've sent many eagles off for necropsy to figure out why they've died, and we continue to do that. So today I'm pleased to be here and to be able to support this special initiative of Port Morien Wildlife Association. And I'm pleased to see that the entire project's been endorsed by so many partners, and that we've received funding through the Nova Scotia Conservation Fund, which is again a fund funded by harvesters in Nova Scotia. And I hope this will help to increase that awareness of reducing lead shot in the environment for the benefit of eagles, for other wildlife, and for all of us, and for future generations. This is a fitting tribute to Dr. Van Dyne's work, and I'm sure she would be pleased to see that her work is continuing. So thank you very much for the invitation, and good luck going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. So I'd also like to read off a brief letter there from Minister Keith Colwell, who unfortunately couldn't attend due to the fall sitting, as many of our environment minister as well sends the same regards back that we couldn't have them due to the fall sitting. But we do have somebody from Inland Fisheries, and I'd like to acknowledge Daryl Morant as well for being here, and we appreciate that through Fisheries and EFO, Troy McKay with Environment as well. So we thank them guys for showing up as well. So without further ado, I would like to acknowledge Chief Rod before we roll into the ceremony here.
Anyway, before I say a few words, I'm going to ask, I'll say a few words first. I got involved with the Federation of Lands, the Anglers and Hunters almost 4 or 5 years ago. in regards to some of the stuff that was going on, and the chief had asked me in my portfolio of land support to look into it. So I met with the Federation. Everybody thought I was crazy, you know, like everybody saw us as the enemy and they were the enemy because we have rights, they have privileges. And once I got to know them, I was just amazed that we have so many things in common. You know, we all have the idea of conservation. Everybody had misconceptions about us, and we had misconceptions about them. And having moved forward, we have accomplished a lot of good things. Last year, I believe, we had I hosted the Moose Symposium in Toronto. And I invited Jeff and Travis, our president at the time, to come join us. And not realizing that Dr. Helena, I've never met her before, was going to be there. And she was sitting at my table, and she made a presentation. These were all Mi'kmaq hunters, along with Jeff and Travis. And she made a presentation on the effects of lead ammunition. And we were just astounded. You know, the Mi'kmaq hunters from Unamarri, mainland, we were just shocked at what damage this lead ammunition does. And I promised Dr. Helena at the time, not knowing that she was not well, that I promised her that we would not be using any more lead ammunition by hunters. We would not be used. We don't need the law telling us not to use it, or legislation being enacted. When we see something that we can sort of do ourselves, we don't need to turn to the government. So my hunters all agreed at the time, Craig, these were my hunters, that we would do away with lead ammunition on our own. And we have done that. Any animal that has been taken last fall or this year was not taking lead ammunition. Now we've seen the effects of the lead in the animals, and we realized we were taking some that needs home to feed our families. Also, with the effect of the other animals are eating the gut piles and everything else. So without any law being enacted or anything, we do it on our own. And at that time, I was so impressed with Dr. Helena. I gave her, it was my 19th year as being chief. I had never bestowed a name on anybody. But I bestowed a name on her, Eagle Whisperer, because I was so impressed with the work she had done with the eagles. And I was very saddened when I found out later that during that conference that she was not well, and she passed very shortly afterwards. And I was very saddened because I was supposed to spell the name of Eagle Whisperer in Mi'kmaq, and I haven't got around doing it yet. I will. But it was shortly afterwards, Jeff called me. He said, Chief Rodney says, there's an eagle that we're trying to rescue. Got off a cliff. Where?
Victoria.
Yeah, he called me in the evenings, all excited. There's an eagle that's injured that got off a cliff. Me and my friend Devin are trying to save it. He said, we couldn't get out there tonight. The waves were too dangerous. We were in a little boat. I said, holy God, that's fine. Yeah, we'll get to it. Next morning, they managed to track the eagle down that had fallen off the cliff and that was injured. And they showed me the film on his camera and everything. And they were taking it to Global Quick
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. And when they got it there, they were told that the eagle was too injured to be rehabilitated. So they had to be put down. I told Jeff, Jeff, tell him I want the eagle back. Because it means a lot to us. I mean, you know, it meant a lot at the time, that eagle. And I said, tell him I want that eagle back. So Jeff was able to bring the eagle back. And I still have the eagle in the freezer, and I'm waiting for the right time to sort of do the ceremony and bury it. Without going any further, I'm going to bring my guy in to do the smudging first now. Jeff, can you get the time to come in? He's gonna smudge the room and, do the blessing on the eagle. His name is, John Primo. He's a member of the Grand Council. So he's gonna smudge the room, smudge the eagle. You can stand while he's doing it.
Excuse me.
Brad, you want to unveil with me on one side, and I'll get there and give you a hand with the case. Actually, stand. Or stand at. Stand Peach. Jump up here. I'll let you unveil this with us. Let him smudge it. Okay, yeah, if we can let the elders in.
Yeah.
Guys, if I can say a few words there, the taxidermy, we have to, again, not only thank the Habitat Conservation Fund for helping us with the literature and that, but the taxidermist in First Class Taxidermy was instrumental in offsetting the costs. And as everybody's seen the beautiful case, that case has a lot of detail and a lot of time put into it. So we would also like to thank the cabinet shop in North Sydney, which is Mill Creek Kitchens and Cabinets, for their fine attention to detail. They've surpassed what we've expected. And Sam's Auto Glass, they've donated the whole case for the Eagle to protect it as we take it moving forward. So it's it was a huge feat there. And as well, Alltech Environmental had helped us to offset some costs with taxidermy as well. That's Terry Smith.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah. That's amazing.
Strong bird.
You figured out that? Not figured it, huh?
Thank you, Jeff. Anyway, finish off my segment of what I'm doing here. I took 3 feathers off the eagle that Jeff and Devin had tried to save. And I had the feathers done up. Unfortunately, Devin's not here, but I want to present a feather to Membertou, Dr. Henry's husband, with a case, and he's so blessed by my guy there. So it's an eagle feather that. That's yours. Here's the case that goes in it. And that's in memory of you and Mike. I also want to present an eagle feather to Jeff, who risked his life to win to try to save the animal.
It was interesting.
But even though we took the best road possible for the animal, at least not suffering, at least you brought it back, and I want to give you something to it that you can keep for yourself.
Well, Chief Rod. And what Chief Rod hadn't mentioned there was that eagle that he had mentioned that Devin and myself went out to get. It was interesting because the day that we did get the phone call for that eagle was the day before Helene's celebration of life, which made it even more relevant to the whole eagle program and her legacy and whatnot. And Membertou can attest to the fact that things got held up because we drove that day up to the celebration of life for her. And we've also we've presented. We had good intentions with the bald eagle. Unfortunately, the circumstances were above and beyond our control.
Could you give that to Devin?
I will give that to Devin for you.
Okay, that's the three feathers that came out that eagle, and I still have it, and the time is right, and we'll do a ceremony and bury it.
Perfect.
And I also want to remind everybody who's here that we're all treaty people, each and every one of us. The treaties were not signed by just us. Your ancestors signed them treaties with my ancestors, so that makes all of us treaty people. Keep that in mind. And and if we look back at the treaties allowed us to live together, move forward together. And I remember when I first started working with the Federation of Anglers and Hunters, we have lawyers within the Assembly of Chiefs that I work with. And I said, I'm going to work with, and they said, well, do we need an MOU to sort of, make it how do we work? I said, we don't need an MOU. We already have something, it's called a treaty. Why don't we just use that one and move forward? Thank you very much.
So without further ado, I'd like Membertou. I know we changed up the scheduling or the agenda a little bit, Membertou, and I know you have some words that you would like to present to the crowd as well. So Membertou Messer, co-founder of Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Center.
Hi. Hello, wave. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all on behalf of the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Center and in memory of Helene. It's an honor to be here. What can I say about Helene that I'm sure everyone in this room doesn't already know? She was an extraordinary human being. She loved animals, tea, books, and I'm fortunate to say she loved me. She studied to become a veterinarian because of her love for animals. She wanted to be a healer for those creatures that had no voice to express why they were in pain or broken. When she graduated from the Atlantic Veterinary College, she began her career looking after domestic animals, cats and dogs. But she soon saw a need for that care to extend to the wildlife that often ended up in the clinics where she worked. Over time, she saw a need for a dedicated space for caring for wildlife only, and from that, the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Center was formed. The first eagles we saw at the CWRC were a pair of juveniles that managed to get into a vat of rancid fish oil. Their feathers were slick, they stank terribly, and they were quite weak from not having eaten for days. They taught us a great deal. We learned how to catch them, hold them, wash them, feed them, and house them. In exchange for saving their lives, and because they were calm and passive, They gave us the confidence to look after the next eagle and the hundreds that have followed since. Some of these were not so easy to deal with, like Birdzilla. This is the name we bestowed upon the biggest, most cantankerous eagle to ever arrive at our center. Birdzilla was a beautiful female with an 8-foot wingspan. When she arrived, she was unable to stand. Her eyes and pupils were moving involuntarily, and she was having difficulty breathing. These are clinical signs of lead poisoning. Lead is a neurotoxin that attacks the central nervous system, causing paralysis, dizziness, blindness, and death. Lead poisoning in eagles can be treated depending upon the level of lead in the blood. However, above a certain threshold, the damage is irreversible, and death through starvation or predation is the only outcome for these birds in the wild. Birds we see that test above this level at our center are euthanized to spare them this slow death. We test every eagle that comes to our center for lead. This is done by drawing blood from a wing vein and placing a sample in the machine we bought specifically to test for lead. Almost every eagle we see has some lead level exposure. Birdzilla's level was quite high, and we began treatment right away. In many respects, she was a lucky bird. Normally, we see the eagles long after they've been exposed to lead and have been grounded by its neurological effects and are starving and close to dying. In her case, we think the poisoning had been quite recent to her arrival because she was in excellent physical condition, such that after a few days of treatment, she went from barely being able to stand to wanting to kill us all. Hands down, in her case, hands down, Birdzilla was by far the fiercest eagle I've ever handled. Whenever I would have to hold her for the daily chelation injection, it would take all my strength to do so. She was an amazing wild creature with a ferocious will to live. Helene had a similarly strong will to live. All through her cancer diagnosis and treatment, she continued to provide care to all the animals that arrived at the CWRC. I even brought animals to her bedside when she felt too nauseated and weak to stand. Such was her dedication to their well-being and protection. She always put them before herself. Eagles, Kitpu, are regarded as sacred messengers that carry prayers from First Nations people between Mother Earth and the spirit world where their ancestors and the Creator live. I think it's also possible that they return as messengers of their own for all of us to hear. Helene was uniquely positioned to hear one message in particular. That message was that fragmented lead ammunition left behind in the environment was poisoning and killing birds of prey, especially bald eagles. I have lost count of the number of eagles that have died in my arms from lead poisoning. To feel their heartbeats slow to a stop, their strong, proud bodies go limp in their final moments is a sad and lonely feeling, especially knowing that their deaths were prevented. In 2011, we admitted 5 bald eagles within the space of 2 weeks that were all lead poisoned. This was a pivotal moment for Helene. It was at this point that she heard their message and made it her mission to become a messenger on their behalf. Helene began an education program and outreach to raise awareness of the issues she was dealing with. Her belief was that hunters and fishers were simply unaware of the connection between their activities and what we were seeing at our center. Her philosophy was to explain, without blame, the science and the processes leading to lead poisoning in eagles and other species, including, of course, humans. She traveled across the Maritimes, Canada, the United States, to present her message to anyone, to any group willing to listen. It has taken 8 years to get to this point today, a tipping point. Thanks to the Port Morien Wildlife Association, First Nations across Nova Scotia, and many other wildlife hunting and fishing organizations, the message she packed into her little Mazda with courage, determination, and hope has been heard. Helene died on August 10, 2018. She gave her last lead talk in July, a month before her death. She was hopeful that her message would carry on when she was no longer able to do so. She would have been so pleased to know that her efforts have not been in vain. The eagle that you have blessed today, that is dedicated to her work and to her memory, is a symbol of her hope and her strength that this message, Kitpu's message, has been heard. I thank you all on her behalf. Good all you.
to see if any of the elders from the community would like to say a couple of quick words, and I will also open the floor to both Councillor Craig Christmas and Graham Marshall, if you guys and the elders would like to say anything.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Elders, officers, official delegates, welcome all to the Membertou Heritage Park. And me and Craig want to give a sincere, Craig, on behalf of Chief and Council, of all the work and tireless hours each and every one of you guys have put in to this project. I especially want to commend Craig as well as taking the lead on this on behalf of Chief and Council. Working with Jeff, with a great relationship they have had over the past couple of years as well. And I believe Craig is wanting to speak.
Well, I met Jeff at the Move Symposium, and we didn't really hit it off right away. You see, I was a Mi'kmaq hunter, and I wasn't really sure what he was doing it. So Rod introduced us, and we started talking and stuff. And months went by, hunting season came, and there was issues in the mountain that we were dealing with that we couldn't get our voice heard. So I said, I know somebody that can help us out. And Jeff McNeil is very passionate about what he does, and it's an honor to know you, Jeff, and to meet you. Very proud of that one. Thank you for all your help. And we'd like to honor you with the ribbon shirt.
Wow.
It has the two eagle feathers on it.
Wow. Guys, this is something. Wow. Wow, this is more than I expected today, to be quite honest. We didn't expect any of this from, as you see here, wearing the garment to the eagle feather that Chief Rod bestowed to us. It's great to see that our work does not go unrecognized. For a small organization like Port Morien Wildlife Association to move things, I guess, as the general public calls us movers and shakers, sometimes we're not liked for being so, I guess, not demanding, but trying to work to get things. Yeah. We've had people reach out to us from one side of Canada to the other side of Canada that the general public don't even realize. And they ask us, it's a common question that we get asked all the time. It's, how can our First Nations people work with non-First Nations people in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario? We had Inuit from up north ask the same thing. They're like, how did you guys start this bond and relationship? And I'll be quite honest, it started with Chief Rod. Chief Rod crossed that dance floor, and he has quite the analogy as explaining that. There's some songs we're going to dance to, and other songs we're not going to dance to. Sometimes we're going to have differences, put the differences aside, and work on the common issue at hand that you can fix. And from that, we've moved very heavily on trying to progress things across the board for wildlife conservation, showing not just Canada but elsewhere in the world that, hey, it doesn't matter your race, anything like that, you can work together for a common goal as you see fit to move things forward. And today is a prime example of this, because from what we've seen, it's the first in Atlantic Canada that something outside of an eagle feather or talent has been presented like this. And for us to have the opportunity to not only carry on Helene's legacy and her contribution to rehabilitating wildlife, as us as hunters and harvesters, both nation to nation, Mi'kmaq, non-Mi'kmaq, it shows the world that, hey, anything is possible when you put your mind to something and work towards a goal. And I know my colleague there, Stan Peach, wants to say a few words towards the end. No, he's shaking his head. So with that, I just want to again thank everyone that showed up here today to take part. Elders in the community, we appreciate you taking the time to show up and partake in this today. Chief Rod, we appreciate that. Members, media, again, Nova Scotia Environment Enforcement, Department of Fisheries and Oceans, staff, Lands and Forestry, Nova Scotia Inland Fisheries, and Membertou, we really appreciate the commute that you had taken to come down to say these few words, and it's a tribute to Helene, which will carry on hopefully for many years to come. We also again want to thank the Assembly of Mi'kmaq Chiefs for giving us the support. Again, Chief Rod and the Assembly, the Nova Scotia Conservation Fund for helping contribute. Nova Scotia Department of Lands and Forestry, specifically, I know they're one blanket group, but the guys in the local detachment in Coxeat have been amazing. So we'd like to give them their little pat on the back because they've assisted us when the first eagle that we got was unsuitable. They worked with us to help us find another one. The late Dr. Helene Van Danik, Membertou Messer, Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. It's a huge honor to follow in something there that we were even skeptics of at first when we seen their presentation. But Helene sold it, and she didn't present a ban, and that is not what we were looking at. We're looking at alternatives and such. First Class Taxidermy, Steve McDonald, Anna Ganesh. Alltech Environmental Services, Terry Smith. Mill Creek Kitchens and Cabinets. We can't thank them enough, along with Sam's Auto Glass, for the wonderful display case that really highlights this, and it will protect the eagle. Not only did they do the display case, but they did a carrying case that it takes two people to lift, so it's well protected. And we'd also like to mention Rob Romert and Kate Messer, because they had allowed us to use some of their photography to highlight this as well. We'd also like to thank Councillor Craig Christmas, Councillor Graham Marshall, Jeff Ward, everybody at the Heritage Park here in Membertou Chief and Council, as well. Again, the staff that had showed up. We would also like to thank the Non-Lead Initiative for sending us some display items out of California, because they heard what we were doing and the message we're trying to carry on, as well as the Delaware Osto-Auburn Society out of New York. They had actually allowed us permissions as well to use literature that they have. So as everybody thinks that there's no paperwork involved in projects like this, you wouldn't believe the paperwork and stuff we have to endure. And these are all the original proofs of everything from photo releases to you name it, for us to carry on moving forward with this. So in closing, I would like to hand it off to Jeff Ford for a few things, if he has anything else he wants to.
I just want to say it's an honor to be working with this gentleman for 3 years now. We met about 3 years ago, and he brought learning, great teaching, educational taxidermy display to the schools. And from there, it was a beautiful partnership. And also too, where I received one of the very earliest gifts given to our people. This little beaver here was given to our people. So these are the partnerships. And that's what we celebrate here in Membertou. We talk about the partnerships. When people came to the shores 500 years ago, 400 years, we recognized that, look, we shared the food, we shared the medicine, we shared the land. We did a lot of sharing. And that's what it was about. And it still is today. It still is today. And the beautiful relationships that we're doing,
And Membertou is a very big part of partnerships. So I give thanks for us coming together. I can't wait to get a photo with the eagle, just in my regalia with the eagle. And then also, once again, I'd like to thank the elders for coming out today. Thank you guys very much. It's short notice, but we got you here. And I'm so happy you're here. And for also the different organizations that are here, we thank you. Because this is a prime example of many different programs that we could start doing and keep on this growth. So I want to sing this song. And this first song that I want to sing, it's actually a song that we would start when we started gathering. We would start with this song. So I want this song to start the partnership, start that growth, and continue what we're doing here today, and continue that partnership. So we're going to start with this little song, and then maybe we'll go into another song, I'm not sure. So it goes like this.
Way Majdud, Geabona Madud Dinesh, Geabona Madud Dinesh, Dan Gezu Delegalo, Segula Sisamo, Hea Heo, Heo He Haya, Heo He Haya, Weo 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 He Haya, Heo.
Oh! So we thank you guys all for coming here today for this beautiful event. Of course, no celebration or no gathering is complete without food. We have moose stew out there. Moose stew. And we have some amazing food out there. We have some salad, all prepared to you by Gajoo's Catering Department, Gajoo's Restaurant. And we thank you guys. So of course, please fill your pockets before you leave. With the food, not the... So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. And if anybody has any questions,
Yes, on the okay.
we can, after we're done here, you can ask questions and we'll answer any questions that you may have. There's also a display there of non-lead and lead on the table.
Unleaded. Non-geomodified. Word. Thank you, guys.
Oh, one is getting right in the middle.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. We'll allow the other.
Yeah.
That's a horse coach name.
Yeah, there you go.
So they have the end subsidy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Yes.
Bring the eagle out.
Yeah.
Put it in the front and then put everybody behind and get the elders, everybody. And I get a photo of it all.
Yeah.
And, yes, and what I'll do is I'll put the case on the top of it.
Can I get a picture without the case?
You sure can. And for those that are wondering about the beaver medallion that Jeff Ward had mentioned, that was actually given by Greg Bosch from Ontario to him. That is an old artifact, and when we had Greg down, again funded through the Habitat Conservation Fund, and it was through the CWTF, which is Canadian Wild Turkey Federation. He come down and we had him do Mi'kmaq schools in Cape Breton and one across the causeway as well. It was well received, and Greg was given that from somebody who collects antiques and artifacts. And that was bestowed to Greg. He had two of them that are exact replicas, not replicas I should say, but the same version, I guess. And he was told to give one to somebody that he found most deserving and respectful of the First Nations heritage in Canada. And it ended up in Jeff Ward's hands.
He couldn't find one, so he saw and gave it to me. The other guy didn't show, so he gave it to me.
Want to do that?
Yeah. I'll let Jeff grab a...
You want to pass me my ring and my staff?
No, I'll wait till I get a look.
I'm with Jeff McNeil. He's the organizer for the Port Morien Wildlife Association Eagle Project. and we just had the ceremony with the blessing of the eagle and the smudging of the room. And we just wanted to touch base with a last recap of what's going on. So Jeff, can you explain to us real quick what we were doing today?
Well, we were granted permissions for a bald eagle, not only through the province, but through the Mi'kmaq and the Assembly, for our project with the lead ammunition and lead tackle. It is to educate hunters that there's alternatives out there for them to utilize versus lead. We've seen firsthand what the effects of lead has on the bald eagles that scavenge gut piles and so forth. So this is why we wanted to initiate this, and with us being bestowed permits and privileges to possess a bald eagle, we wanted to make sure that this was done above and beyond expectations.
Yeah, I'm a hunter and a sports shooter, and because of this meeting today, I'm going to change my ammo at the range from lead to copper. I didn't realize how much damage we were doing, even just at the range. There's not much wildlife involved, but the lead still stays in the ground and can go into the groundwater. So these effects are really detrimental to our wildlife, our fish, and even to us in the end. Huh?
That's true. Leaching from ranges is actually listed under the Health Canada report that they have done. They have done 2 reports, one for ammunition and one for lead jigs and weights from fishing and tackle as well.
Yeah, every weight that we get snagged in the water stays in the water, and that goes into the system, and the fish eat it, and then we eat the fish, and then we can get sick from it. So I'm really glad we did this thing today. I'm really glad I participated with the honoring of the eagle. Thank you very much for all your hard work. You guys have been around for a while, huh?
92 years.
92 years.
92 years.
So you're not the first representative then?
No, we've got actually one of our elders, our senior members. He's still a secretary with us, John Kennedy, right in front of us there. Yes, he's been around a heck of a long time with Port Morien Wildlife.
See you later, buddy. I'm going to Halifax.
Let's say hi to our people. This is, what's your name again?
John Kennedy.
John Kennedy. So you're one of the oldest reps for the Port Morien Wildlife Association?
I am the oldest guy in Port Morien Wildlife.
You're not the first though?
Oh, no.
I hope not. From 1920. I'm not trying to insult you or anything.
30,
We're just joking around, huh? But you've been involved for how long in the project?
40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time to devote. You're still fighting, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you've changed my habits today just by watching what's been going on, and I'll be more vigilant at the range with our ammo. And I've been stopping using lead shot for fowl and small game. I use steel shot. Doesn't work as good, but it does the job, and it keeps us safer, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So thank you very much for being here today. Anybody else want to add something in?
Capture Helene's husband and ask him how he's continuing the work. Don't stop it. Just walk over there.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
You're just packing up?
I am packing up.
Just give us your name and how involved you are in this. I understand that your wife started this project.
Yep, my name is Membertou Messer. I'm with the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. One of the co-founders. We started back in 2001 as a nonprofit organization, and Hilly and I kind of built this together over the past 21 years or so. Yeah, I'm involved daily because the organization is run off of my property, so all the animal care and things that happen there are done pretty much outside my home.
I noticed that personally and emotionally you're totally invested in this. You had a little trouble talking about what Eaglezilla or
Birdzilla.
Birdzilla.
Yes.
And you had trouble speaking about that.
Well, some of the animals. You try not to get attached to the animals, but sometimes they're such strong, what we would call a personality. They exhibit such strong behavior, unique behaviors that they kind of leave an impression on you. And this was certainly one bird that did that. And Birdzilla was one that was a quick turnaround for a lead eagle, but because she was so strong when she first came in. And when we released her back at her in her territory, she flew off to a tree across the river and landed on a tree that the people who had seen her before said that she normally rests on that tree branch. Within 10 to 15 minutes of her being there, her mate returned and flew around and landed next to her, and they kind of talked to each other. So it was a special moment to see that. And those kind of that's kind of why we do it, right? For
Yeah.
that experience to see these birds
Yeah.
go free back into the wild where they should be, because most of them, I would say 95% of the animals we see are because of human-related impacts. So either lead poisoning or collision with cars or secondhand poisoning through rat poison or just destroying habitat, that sort of thing. So it's important for me, and it was important for Helene to try and reset the balance a little bit. And every time we were able to return one to the environment, healthy and fit, it was a great experience.
I think it's an amazing project what you're doing. I think the most amazing thing I've seen eagles do in my life is when they mate together and they spiral downwards from the sky into the water.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and
We've seen a few do that, and a few have come to our centre because they didn't let go in time, and they often end up locked together until they hit the ground, and sometimes they're injured when they hit the ground.
Is that a mating procedure or is it a fight?
I think it's a territorial thing.
Oh, it's a
Or
fight,
it might be
huh?
a bit of both. It might be territorial and mating, depends on who's involved.
Because when I saw that, I was just blown away. I've never seen anything like it on TV. Cape Breton has so many gifts for us to see, and thank you for being part of those gifts and trying to save our environment and bringing the lead awareness to our hunters and to our harvesters and even people at the range. I'm one of the range people, and I think I'm going to switch to copper with my 22 shot when I go practice.
Yep.
Just to do my part and try to be friendly with the ecosystem.
That's good. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for talking to us.
Appreciate it. No
Have a
problem.
good day,
Take
buddy.
care.
So this is Andre Desjardins at Ripple Effects.